Okay, in this video we're going to assume that you are ready to go full-time with Linux. If you watch any of my other videos, you will have a collective knowledge of how to install Linux into a virtual machine, how to install or how to create a bootable USB. You boot from the USB, test your hardware, make sure everything is working. You can choose any distribution you want and go from there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to assume you already did all of that. You tested all of your software, you're ready to go, you tested all your hardware, it's good to go. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a full switch around right now. So I'm going to start with Windows 11, and this has BitLocker installed on it since it is a professional version. So when we reboot, we are going to do one additional step to get past that bootlocker, and that is to go ahead and wipe out the partition before we run the installer. If you don't have BitLocker installed, like say if you're coming from a home version, you don't have to worry about that. However, this one does. This is a professional version. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reboot. Don't need to log in. Just straight up reboot. Again, you got all your files backed up and everything else. You're ready to move forward and not look back. So we're going to go ahead and push our boot menu key. Again, that's part of your assignment, your homework, is to find out what you need to do with that, whether it's F10, 11, 12, delete, F2, escape, control it, F97, whatever. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose which drive I want to boot from, which is this USB here. I'm going to skip the test. If you've written Fedora for the first time and have never booted off of it, it's not a bad idea to run this media test. It's just going to make sure that the integrity of the disk is correct. I've already done that, so I'm just going to go ahead and boot to Fedora. Now, Fedora's installer is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past with like Linux Mint and the like. It doesn't use like a calamari type of installer, and you'll see that here in just a little bit once we get booted in. You can also use Fedora for your testing purposes if you want. In fact, you might want to if you have newer hardware, because it will support it easier out of the box since Fedora likes to stay close to upstream. All right, so we're going to ignore this window for just a second here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a utility called GParted, and it's sudo dnf install GParted. It's going to synchronize its repositories automatically. Notice I didn't have to do like a sudo dnf update or anything like that. We're going to go ahead and download and install that real quick. All right, and since this disk does not have, this USB does not have persistence on it, if I were to reboot, GParted would no longer be there. It doesn't survive reboots. All right, so I'm going to click on the Fedora button there and type GParted. We're going to run that. Okay, so I have two hard drives in here, both of them are NVMe's. I got a 256 and a 500, and this is the thumb drive I'm currently booted off of. If we go over here, actually we need to go ahead and wipe that out too. I'm going to do device create partition table. Since this drive is less than 2 terabytes, it doesn't matter if I use DOS or GPT. We'll just go ahead and use DOS for now, that's fine. I'm going to wipe that out, and I'm going to do the same thing for this Microsoft partition, or this Microsoft drive. This is the drive that we have been booting from. This is the drive that has Windows installed on it. Notice there's BitLocker right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to wipe all of that out. So device, create partition table, and we're going to do DOS on that one too. And there it goes. Windows is gone. At that point in time, Windows is no longer there. So I'm going to click this install the hard drive button. This is going to start the Fedora installer. I'm going to choose our language. Okay, notice some of these are black and some of them are in red with triangles. The ones with red and triangles means it requires our input in some way or another. The rest are okay with what they're currently set at. One thing I like to do is go ahead and set my host name though while we're in here. And I'm just going to call it Fedora for now. Okay, installation destination. So I can put it right here on the Windows drive. I can actually put it over here on this other drive if I want to, or I can put it on both. If we put it on both, what it'll do is it will basically stripe your data across both your drives. And instead of seeing two hard drives, one 256 gigs, one 500 gigs, it'll see one solid 750 gig drive, which may be useful to you. It's up to you whether you want to use that or not, especially if you have 2 or 3 smaller drives in here. It can combine into one larger one. We'll go ahead and run it that way. That's fine. Done. And over here, now you get a choice whether you want to do a root account or user account. You can actually do both. However, common practice is to leave the root account disabled, and we're going to create a user instead. Okay, so if we want to actually go back when we're done with this and enable the root user, and we do not want this first user to have administrative privileges, we just take his check mark out. And when we go back to the main menu, then we can enable the root user. This check mark here is also whether you wanted to use a password on this account or not, which we always do. Unless you live by yourself and there's absolutely no chance anybody else is going to get into your computer. Then you can bypass it if you want to. All right. So no complaints, so we're going to go back and notice that the root problem is also fixed too. Since we enabled this user and it says an administrator, the root account no longer needs attention. So we're going to begin installation and go from there. Now, the reason why we ended up having to put GParted on to overcome that bootlocker is because BitLocker, excuse me, BitLocker will encrypt the drive, and it's kind of hard for us to read and write to the drive if it's currently encrypted. So by resetting the master boot record, which is what we did, we just created a new one. By doing that, it didn't decrypt anything. It just completely wiped it out. So we can start fresh, and Linux can then read the drive from there. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and pause the video and let this progress bar complete. Okay, once it's done, it'll say complete up here in the bar. Down in the lower right hand corner, you'll have this finish installation button. When you click that, all that's going to do is it's going to close the installer. So Fedora is now installed on your hard drive. There is no more Windows. You can continue to test this if you want. Or what you can do is just go ahead and reboot, which is what we're going to do here. Restart. And we will let it go ahead and restart. We don't need to interfere with anything, or we don't have to go back into the boot menu or anything. We're just going to go ahead and let it boot up. Now, the UEFI entry is still going to be on the computer. Windows itself is not, but Windows UEFI menu will still be there. So if you see some residue, that's going to be okay. It's not going to hurt anything. You can remove it. I will show you how to use EFI Boot Manager in a different video to remove older and unneeded entries. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and log back in here. And congratulations, you are now a full-time Linux user. There is no Windows anywhere on your computer anymore. You can follow through this if you want to. It's just a little bit of a welcome telling you how to do certain things, And anyway, we're just going to close that for now, but you can go ahead and watch that if you want. Congratulations, not only are you a Linux user, but you're on one of the most forward-looking, forward-thinking distributions there is. It is fairly close to upstream. And what I'm going to do now is we are going to go ahead and do the initial update, which is what this little box here is talking about. So we'll go ahead and bring this up. It's going to fetch all the updates. This is going to be a huge update. Fedora does not sit still. Fedora, unlike some other distributions, they don't have a long-term release. Actually, their stable version is their long-term release, and you only get it for 9 months, and even then, it updates regularly. Case in point, this is probably... actually, let's look at it. It should be Plasma 6.2 still. I'm going to change that menu. I don't like that other menu. About the system. Yeah, 6.2.1 is what is currently on it before we do an upgrade, and that might actually change. So let's go ahead and do this update all, and we'll let that run. You can... I don't know if it's going to let you see the individual packages or not. I usually do my upgrades from the command line, but I haven't touched on the command line or anything like that on this channel yet, so I want to try to stay as new user friendly as possible. But I am going to go ahead and pause the video again while these tasks complete. Okay, now that that's completed, it says it wants to restart, so we'll go ahead and restart so it can install the updates. I'll show you what that screen looks like. Hopefully it won't take too long. If it does start to take a little longer, I will pause the video again until it gets to the desktop. Windows users should be familiar with the screen similar to this. Basically what it's going to do is before it boots back up, it's going to go ahead and do its update process like that right there. Do not turn off your computer, installing updates, just like Windows does. Looks like it's moving along, so we'll go ahead and let it run for now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and let this finish. All right, I'm going to go ahead and unpause. It finished the progress bar, and it's currently doing its reboot after that. So we'll go ahead and get back to the desktop. All right, we'll go ahead and get logged in. Okay, and there you have it. We're back on the desktop, and we've got our first full upgrade. So we are at the latest versions of Fedora 41 at this time. I'm going to go ahead and break the video here. I do have other videos that are going to immediately follow. I have some spare time today, so I will go ahead and get them recorded. It may be another week before you see them up on YouTube, but they are going to get recorded here in just a few minutes. So we'll go ahead and get that started. However, if you like these videos, you want to see more, make sure you click that like and subscribe button, smash that notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.